I hope you're having a good day. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cropped top, and I'm going to turn around so you can see the back, which is the best part of it. So this is one of my makes from July, and I used the shift dress, the ultimate shift dress pattern, and I'm going to show you how I altered it to create this opening at the back. Poppy, no! Like with the waistband piece we did for the ultimate trousers, I'm going to do the pattern part of it over on the blog. So to see how we alter the pattern, go over to the blog and get that information from there, and then come back here and I'll show you how we sew it. Right, so what I've got is my ultimate shift dress cut into a top, and I've also shortened it. So I used the cutting line for the top as a guide, and I then shortened it to the amount that I wanted it to be because I want it to be a crop top. I also took in the side seams a little bit because they are a little bit too wide for a crop top, so I've taken those in by about 1 inch on either side seam, but obviously that would be dependent on what you need, so you might not want to take it in at all, but I felt like I did. And then I've done this version, I'm doing a sleeveless version, so I've already hemmed my sleeves, and to make life easier I've also just turned over a single hem on the neckline, so I'm not using the facing on the neckline. For the version that I'm wearing here, I did a bias binding, so it does look better than the heavy facing that you get with the pattern, so you could do either of those options. So yeah, you can see here the curved corner, so here's the curving. Poppy is desperate to come into this video today. She really wants to help. Okay, you're allowed to sit there, Poppy, but that's it. Right, I hope that's not too distracting. So you can see the curved shape here, the wrap at the back. So the stage I've got to is I've overlocked that bottom edge all the way around. I've done my neckline, I've done my armholes, and I'm ready to put my facings on. So the facings that we ask you to create, you want to cut those out, so you'll need a pair. And then if you can interface the back as well. And then the first step is to overlock the inside curve of the facing. So what I'm doing is I'm pinning the facing to the back seam, and I'm placing them right sides together, and I've folded over the extended amount to be in line with the hem neckline there, and at the side seam I've folded back as well the seam allowance, so that when we stitch it, it will have a nice neat folded edge here. Right, so there it is stitched all the way around, and I'm now going to clip some triangles out of this curve. So going a couple of millimeters away from the seam. That will allow the curve to sit flat. Okay, so then we're going to turn it through and iron that into a nice smooth curve. So I've just given that a nice iron, and I made sure that I curled the facing under so that that didn't peek through. Okay, and at the top there you can see that's just tucked in, and that'll need a bit of a hand stitch to neaten there. And this is ready to be hemmed here, and again that'll just need a little catch to the seam allowance once we're done. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other side in the same way. So I've stitched both sides. Now what I'm going to do is stitch my buttonholes. So on the version that I made first, I made covered buttons with 22mm buttons. So I'll probably do the same for this. And I think I put about 5 buttons. So if I'm going to put the first button here at the top, so that that top edge is nicely stitched, held together. And then I'm just going to measure the distance and mark where the rest of my buttons would go. Sometimes it's better to mark the top, mark where your bottom one will go, and then work out the distance in between. So here are my buttonhole pins marking where I want the position of them. Okay guys, so I've just done a test buttonhole. This is what I always do. I do one on a scrap to check the size, and then it also helps me work out the position of the buttonholes on the garment. So I've just done my buttonhole, and that's going to be fine for this. So then what I do is I take a tape measure and I measure the length of the buttonhole that I'm going to use. So that's 3 centimetres. Okay, so 3 centimetres. So this pin here is marking the centre of the buttonhole. So what I need to do is find out where the buttonhole is going to start and mark that point so that they're in the right position. So half of 3 centimetres is 1.5 centimetres. So I'm putting my 1.5 centimetre marker on there, on the pin which is marking the centre of the button, and then I'm going to put a pin marking the 3 centimetres. So basically it's 1.5 centimetres down from my central pin that I've already placed. And this is marking the bottom of the buttonhole. And my machine works from the bottom of the buttonhole up. So that's what I need to have marked. So I can now take the central pins out and I can stitch my buttonholes. What I'm going to do is make sure that the buttonhole sits in the centre. So I'm measuring 2 centimetres from the finished edge in. So the buttonhole will sit 2 centimetres in from that edge. I've just stitched all my buttonholes and I'm going to open them. Now I learned an amazing tip the other day from D&M Buttons, which is a professional buttonhole company in London, and they said don't use scissors to unpick your buttonholes, to cut the buttonholes in the middle, use a craft knife. They actually said a scalpel, but I don't have that, so I'm going to use a craft knife. And I've got a cutting mat underneath to make sure I don't hurt my table. Just run this through the middle. It gives you a really nice sharp clean cut. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just wrapping the left side over onto the right, and I'm using the edge of the facing there as a guide for the wrap. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is stitch the buttons on, and because I've pinned the wrap in place, I'm actually going to start by stitching through my buttonhole, and that will give me the perfect position. So I'm going to come up through the middle of the buttonhole, making sure I'm in that gap. I've got the perfect point for the button to centre to be, and then I'm going to do a little stitch, and then I just stitch my button onto that point. Okay, so I have popped all my buttons on, and I've also hemmed the front. Stitched it all the way so it's in line with the facing, and the last thing would just be do a little catch stitch there and the same at the top as well. Hi guys, so I'm back in my flat. I'm going to move those to one side. Back in my flat in my finished little shift crop. Here it is. I'll give you a little whirl. There it is from the back, like so. You might find that the facing starts to pull down a little bit. Mine seems to be fine, but if yours does, you can just put a little stitch to hold it in place at the points where it's sagging a little bit, just a little hand catch. I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial and you find that easy to follow. Lots more of these coming your way, so I will see you next time. Bye!